Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we will create the front-end application using ChatGPT. So we will be writing a ChatGPT prompt that we will send to ChatGPT in order to get the code for the front-end, which is an HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So that's what we will be doing. We need to create a folder. Let's say I'll call it public folder, and I have to go to the app.js, and inside the app.js I need to add a new middleware app use express.static public. We are telling the web server that whatever in the public is static and public can be available for everybody. Now inside the public folder, I want to add an image that we will use in our application. This is the image that we will be using in our application. So now I will be generating that prompt. It will be a little bit long prompt because I need to exactly specify what I need to do. Now there is another approach where you do smaller prompts and get smaller chunks of the code and do the code gradually. In my case, I will try to write everything that I am aware of. But of course, it could be that at a certain stage, I need to send follow-up prompts. But for now, I'll try to do as much code, as much description as possible in that prompt. Okay, so usually when you deal with ChatGPT, it is very recommended that you set the expectation from the pod. You tell it what it is going to do and how it should act as. So to do that, we are building a web application. So you are an experienced web developer. Okay. Let me now go to the actual, what I will ask ChatGPT to build for me. You need to generate the front end, HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript for a web page that will call a JSON web API to create a chat completion from a prompt. So we are telling it what you are going to build for us. HTML, CSS, vanilla JavaScript, call a JSON API and display the response. Then I will start and specify as much context and details as possible. So I don't want a lot of CSS, so I ask him to use bootstrapped CSS library. I also want all the code to be in vanilla JavaScript, because some of you might not be familiar with the other JavaScript frameworks. Include the entire page content inside a div that has the container class. So we need the page. Inside the page, we will have a container that contains all the information. Okay. The page background color needs to be light gray, while the container background color needs to be in dark gray. So the page backend color is different from the container backend color. You need to create a header that has a logo and a title which are centered in the page. If you remember here, we added this logo.png. So now I am saying the page includes a form to collect the prompt text from the user and a submit button. Below the form, there is a div to display the returned output from the JSON API. So when the user gets the response back, this needs to be updated. Now this part is the deepest one of them. When the submit button is clicked on the JavaScript code, a JavaScript code shall read the prompt from the form and call the following URL. This is the URL that we have. You can see it here, for example, from Postman here at the top, or from, of course, the code. You can come here and see this information, and this is the port number. Okay, and pass the prompt in the body as JSON object with the key this. Because remember, this is the key. This is the key that we specify on the body. Now, in order to help him, I will give a sample request body. So a sample request body could be this. I copied that just from a post now. Now, let me add some more details. So I'll come here. During the API call, show a spinner and also disable the submit button and the input field. Again, self-explanatory. Okay, I'll come here. When the API is returned, it has a JSON object with a key of content, which shall update the display and the display div below the form. A sample response is this. So that's it. I just tried to include all the response in one file. It is capable of including multiple files, a file for CSS, one for HTML, one for JavaScript. But for simplicity in this exercise, I asked him to put everything inside this file. Okay, now I will get the entire text. I'll go to the browser. In the browser, I'll go to ChatGPT. Okay, so I will come here and pass the prompt to ChatGPT. This is the prompt which we just generated in the Word document. I will press enter. Okay, so sure, here is the HTML file, and it is generating the HTML file for us. Okay, it's saying that the PNG file need to be here, and it is talking about the code. I will copy the code. I'll go to Visual Studio Code. Inside the public, I will create a file. I'll call it chat underscore completion.html. Okay. I am pasting the code here. Now let's try to run it before looking at it. Now the server is running, so all what we need to do is to go to the browser. Now if we come here, this is our application. As you can see here, the background color light gray. The container background is dark gray. This is light gray. This is dark gray. Here's the image. I didn't tell him the header, but he figured out that this is about chat completion. Enter your prompt here and so on. Let me try this. What is the capital of Spain? You see the spinner now, and here is the response, which is Madrid. Okay, so you have seen how we used ChatGPT in order to get the code for the front end. We haven't looked at the code at all. We managed to write a web page that calls to a JSON API, return the input, update the output. We did all of that without having to look at the code at all. Now, I don't know if we can ask it to modify something. Okay, let's ask it to have some more margin around the container. So I'll go back to ChatGPT. Can you add some margin at the top of the container? So I'm asking it margin. So I'm asking him to have some margin here at the top. So let's see what it will do with it. So I'm getting that code, the updated code. I go to here, save. If I go back to the browser, F5, you see now we have some more margin at the top. So that's it about it. So we have completed our first application. Thank you very much.